Hello everybody, and today we're going to be creating sort of a server with using sockets in JPizza. Now, sockets are like connections. You can have a server socket which listens for connections and then handles them appropriately, and then you have the client socket which connects to a server socket. And essentially what these do is the client socket can send and receive data, and the server socket can send and receive data and also listen for connections. So let's work on this. Now, there is a native library known as sockets, which is built into the language itself, but we're going to use the object-oriented version called socks, which can be downloaded using Bridge, and it essentially gives us classes to work with instead of IDs and functions. So I don't recommend using the native sockets library. I recommend using socks, which I made to offer a much nicer approach to using sockets. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to import socks on both of these. And I'm going to write our client first. Now the client is going to be relatively simple. I'm going to create a client. I'm going to bake it because it's going to be constant. Bake client, and then just socks, then socket client. Then this is the port we're going to put the host we want to connect to, which is going to be localhost, and then the port we're going to want to connect to. And I'm going to use 5000. I'm going to host our server on 5000 just because it's an always open port, so we don't ever have to worry about it needing to be opened using weird IP stuff. Next, we're going to print line, and we're just going to say received data plus client dot, not client dot, client receive. Now what this does is it gets data from our connection, and it's just going to concatenate it with the string. So it says receive data and then whatever data we receive. Finally, we're going to close the connection using client close, and this just makes sure that there aren't any random connections that are still just hanging out there, and that can cause some errors and memory issues and all that stuff. So let's just go through this again. Create a constant variable called client, which is a socket client that connects to our localhost on port 5000. It receives some data and then prints it out with the message received data, and then it closes the connection. Now let's go over into our server. Now the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to define a function called handle connection. Do function async. We want to make it asynchronous, just so we can have multiple connections running at once. And then we're going to just call it handle con, and we're going to take in an input, and our input is going to have a type of socket connection. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do con, and then just to make sure it's statically typed, I'm going to do hashtag socket connection, like that. So all I'm really going to do is I'm just going to do print line new connection. Then I'm going to send some data with con send hello world. I'm going to do print line sent data hello world, like that, and then just close the connection. Now in here, I'm going to bake server. That's just going to be socks socket, and it's going to be in port 5000. This basically means we're opening up a socket server on port 5000. It's automatically going to be localhost, which is what we're going to be connecting to, localhost on 5000. And up here, it's just, we're going to print new connection when we get a connection. This function is going to run every time we get a connection. We're going to send the data hello world. We're going to say we sent the data hello world, and then we're going to close the connection. But how do we actually get this function to run on new connections? what we're going to do is we're going to create a while true loop. While true. This is just a root that's going to run infinitely. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say var connection. Then we can do server listen. And basically what this does is it waits and listens for a new connection. And once we get a new connection, it will be a socket connection and it will pass it into our variable. So then we're just going to do handle con and then connection. And voila, we are done. Now let's try this out. I've got my folder over here, so I'm going to open 2 command prompts. One for the server, one for the client. So for this one, I'm going to do the server. So let's see. Server, yep. Okay, I found the problem. The problem was just I was running an earlier test version of this, so it was using up the port, but I shut that down, and now the port's freed up, so we can just run that. See, nothing's happening, and that's actually because it's waiting for a new connection. So if we run our client, received data, hello world. Over here we see sent data, hello world, and new connection. Now we can just keep opening these up, and it's going to keep getting the data. If we were to put this on some sort of online web server or host somewhere, then we could have a server and we can have interactions reaching out, reaching back. And there's a lot that you can do with this. You can create your own chat room. You can do a lot. And so this has been Sockets in JPizza using the socks library, and I hope you enjoyed.